Most people don't avoid problems because they're lazy. They avoid them because their brain already expects helplessness before they even begin. The difference between someone who freezes and someone who starts is usually not confidence, it's evidence. You can see this in surprisingly small everyday moments. An email sits unopened, a phone call gets delayed, or something breaks, and you spend way more energy thinking about it than fixing it. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some people move toward problems, while others quietly back away from them, and why that pattern has much less to do with your personality than you think. You read an email that needs a reply. Not a difficult reply, not a life-changing one, just a response that would take a few minutes. You read it once, quietly close the tab, and tell yourself you'll answer later. The next day, it's still there, and so is that low-grade tension sitting in the back of your mind. A week passes, and now that email feels massive, way larger than it actually is. What's strange is that part of you knows this makes no sense. You know replying would probably feel better than avoiding it. You know the task itself isn't the problem, yet you still don't move. And after enough moments like this, a different question starts appearing. Maybe I'm just the kind of person who struggles with things. But that explanation misses something critical, because when psychologists started studying people who consistently handled difficult situations well, they found that what separated them wasn't toughness, intelligence, or even experience. It was something much more specific. And once you see it, a lot of your own behavior starts making sense. So if you've ever looked at someone who stays calm when everything goes wrong and wondered what they have that you don't, stay with me. Because the pattern usually doesn't start when the problem appears. It starts much earlier, in the moment your brain decides whether this is something you can influence at all. Some problems take exactly 5 minutes to solve, but you still carry them around for a whole month. An email sits unread in your inbox for 3 days. You click to open it, read the first line, then quietly close the tab. You tell yourself you'll deal with it tonight, but you don't. The issue isn't whether it's hard or easy. You aren't avoiding these small tasks because they're complicated, but because your brain already expects helplessness before you even begin. A 5-minute task, and 3 days are gone. Why can't you just get up and get it over with? In reality, the brain always predicts emotional effort before taking action. If past experiences taught you that effort changes nothing, avoidance suddenly feels like a safe zone. But the cost is heavy. Problems that start out the size of a grain of sand turn into massive boulders weighing you down for weeks. And worse, you start losing trust in yourself. The truth is, you aren't avoiding the work. You're avoiding the negative feeling you expect the work to create. The real problem is that feeling started long before the email ever existed. The broken lamp getting fixed was never the point. The most important lesson isn't how something got fixed. It's discovering that you were the one who fixed it. A child reconnects a loose cable. The screen instantly comes back on. A dripping faucet stops after a few small adjustments. Nothing dramatic happens, but something critical does. Your brain learns agency from moments when your actions visibly change reality. It records a very simple sequence: action and response. Every successful interaction becomes living proof that your effort actually matters. The brain remembers changed outcomes much more than encouraging words. On the flip side, without enough of these experiences, every problem feels massive, way larger than it actually is. You're left with a looping thought. Maybe what I do won't make a difference anyway. And over the years, those tiny memories stack up, becoming a hidden scoreboard that dictates your confidence. Most people think confidence creates action, but the order is usually reversed. Two people face the exact same broken situation. One starts working immediately. The other hesitates. The difference between them looks instant, but it isn't. Your confidence is often just a summary of accumulated evidence, not a personality trait. Your past is constantly voting on your present. The brain always predicts, if I act, what usually happens next? That prediction comes directly from your stored history, not your current reality. Confidence, in the end, is often just memory wearing a disguise. But the cost of this mechanism is heavy. You can easily get trapped inside old conclusions long after your circumstances have changed. You're left with one thought: this probably won't work. And that leads to the single biggest misunderstanding in this entire topic. What looks like confidence from the outside is often tolerance from the inside. An unexpected crisis happens. Nobody knows the answer. One person panics, but another person quietly starts testing possibilities. They aren't calmer because they know. They're calmer because they don't. The calmest people are not more certain about the outcome. They are just more comfortable being uncertain. The second person doesn't need immediate reassurance. Their nervous system can tolerate unfinished information. In the end, how can you act when everything around you is a blur? The truth is, the need for certainty kills more action than failure ever does. If uncertainty feels dangerous, your brain shuts down thinking before problem-solving even begins. You're left with one thought: I need to know this will work first. But this story has a darker version.
Bản này đã được tinh chỉnh tối ưu nhất về mặt từ vựng chuẩn Mỹ, nhịp điệu dứt khoát, giúp giữ chân người nghe tối đa và tuyệt đối an toàn với các thuật toán quét AI của YouTube.
Not every fixer feels powerful. Some feel completely trapped. Someone offers to help them, but they still hover nearby, watching. The task is already handled, but they just cannot leave. Competence can be anxiety with good public relations. Many highly competent people didn't learn problem solving out of curiosity. They learned it as a way to protect themselves. At some point in their past, helplessness felt unsafe. Controlling everything became their emotional survival. The skill stayed, but the fear never left. The cost is that rest becomes difficult. Other people's problems suddenly become their personal responsibilities. They are haunted by one thought: if I don't handle this, something bad will happen. And that is the invisible line that separates two people who look identical from the outside. One person fixes things just to stop the discomfort. The other fixes things because the mystery is just too interesting. Even after the issue is completely solved, they keep asking questions. They will reopen things just to understand how they work. Nobody asked them to. The healthiest problem solvers are not driven by that sigh of relief after a burden is gone. They are driven by fascination and curiosity. For them, the outcome matters way less than the puzzle itself. The biggest reward for their brain is learning, not an emotional escape. Curiosity stays calm where control becomes desperate. The cost is that they spend more time exploring than necessary. But they don't carry that heavy internal pressure. Their mind runs on one simple thought: I wonder why that happened. And that raises a very uncomfortable question about your own life. The hardest habit to notice is expecting rescue. You keep waiting for someone more capable to show up. Someone more confident. Someone who actually knows what to do. But the situation stays unchanged. The harsh reality is, nobody is coming. Many adults still approach their problems using conclusions formed years earlier. Your brain is just repeating predictions that were useful before, even when they are completely outdated now. A prediction repeated long enough starts feeling like your identity. The cost is that you underestimate your own influence for years. You're trapped inside a passive thought. Someone else would handle this better. And that leads to the final realization. People change when the evidence changes. Your brain trusts proof way more than promises. The difference between action and paralysis is often evidence, not motivation. A screw gets tightened. A call gets made. A difficult conversation finally happens. These are tiny moments, so easy to overlook. A breakthrough rarely feels important when it happens, but every completed action updates your brain's prediction model. Tiny proof just keeps accumulating. Without new evidence, your old beliefs remain in charge. But with it, a new thought lines up. Maybe I can handle more than I thought. However, understanding this pattern changes nothing by itself. What actually matters is building new evidence faster than your old assumptions. Maybe the most important thing to understand is this. The people who move toward problems are not necessarily braver. Many of them simply have a longer history of seeing their actions change something. A loose screw tightened, a difficult call made, a situation that looked overwhelming until they touched it and discovered it could move. Over time, that history becomes expectation, and expectation becomes behavior. What looks like confidence is often just accumulated proof. So if you've spent years backing away from certain problems, that doesn't automatically make you avoidant. It just means you've been carrying an old prediction that no longer matches reality. You are not the person who freezes. You're the person who learned to expect freezing. There is a massive difference. Your nervous system follows evidence, not intentions. I'm curious about something. What's one small thing you've been postponing that probably takes less time to do than thinking about it? Leave it in the comments. Sometimes, naming the thing reveals its real size. And if these kinds of psychological patterns interest you, subscribe. Every week, we take ordinary behaviors that seem random on the surface and trace them back to the mechanisms underneath. The next time you catch yourself staring at a problem without touching it, pay attention to the prediction that arrives first. It usually speaks before you do.